ASMR Cafe Decaf Edition. um, yeah. Tonight we're just gonna hang out and read some, hopefully, lighthearted and fun stories. Say on the worst part, the absolute worst part of all of this is, the coffee is still too hot to properly enjoy. So I have to be patient and wait. I don't want to wait. I want to sip it now. Let me try it. Maybe it's cooled down enough. Did I make a huge pot of decaf just for this? Yes. Was I tempted to not use decaf? Also, yes. It's a little warm. It's a little warm, but it's actually not bad for decaf. I've had it laying around for a while. It's the Starbucks house blend. She had got it for some reason, making me want to make some. No, not this late. Not this late. No. You're not gonna be able to sleep. I would have, if I didn't have anything to do tomorrow, I would have 100% made regular coffee and probably stayed up all night. We took a little nap. So, oh yeah, that's fair. That's true. That's, then you make you coffee if you want coffee. How about that? I found a lot of interesting stories. I don't know why I didn't do this before, but today we're sorting by the best of the best. Oh, what are we playing? I was definitely playing Final Fantasy 14. I did a Fantasia. Now I'm like the cute little guys. Lalafels. I'm a Lalafell now, and the outfit that I made, that it pretty much looks like this, but so much better. Touch starved. It's absolutely amazing. Nyahoy. It's a naughty little kitsune. I hope you're enjoying it though. I hope you're enjoying it. That's what matters. Okay. Alright. Okay. I may or may not have heard about it and seen some of the demo. But yeah. Okay. It's the MC that's cursed. Our first story. They're touch starved because of, you've seen it? I'm not really a huge fan of those types of games or visual novels, really, but I'm definitely aware of it. The voice acting is nice in it. I don't know. I've considered, it's not really ASMR, and that's what I want to focus on here. But I've thought about maybe doing auditions for visual novels when they pop up. But if there's like enough auditions that I'm interested in, maybe making a stream out of it. The problem is, with the model and everything running in the background, it makes a lot of fan sound, which I can reduce. But ideally, if I'm going to be recording something, I want it to be the best quality that I can provide, and that's not it. But still, yeah, it might be fun just to do it for fun. We'll see. I need to go and look. The first story is called Lighthearted Bedtime Story. Okay. Well, maybe I'll try to collect some. See if there's any that interest me. And if there's enough to make a decently sized stream out of it. At least an hour or two. Then I'll post about it on Blue Sky. My boyfriend and I tell bedtime stories back and forth. Usually he's telling one to me though. And tonight, he requested I write one for him. It's meant to be more of a fairy tale style than anything else, and very lighthearted. Enjoy. Once upon a time, there was a princess named Katerina. She was the most beautiful princess in all the lands, and every prince alive wanted her hand in marriage because she was not only beautiful but intelligent and kind as well. But what no man knew was that she could not speak at all. She had been kidnapped at the age of 4 and had not spoken since her return. The resident fairy godmother of the castle said that it would take her one true love to get her to speak again, and her parents despaired because they knew that for Katerina to find her one true love, it could take a lifetime. A prince named Lancifer was practicing his swordplay in a kingdom nearly a week's ride away when a messenger burst into the courtyard, calling for him. Lancifer, my lord prince, your parents call you to the throne room, he cried, dropping to one knee before the prince. This particular messenger had a tendency to overreact, and Prince Lancifer calmly sheathed the sword, replacing it where he had got it from the sword rack. A servant wheeled the rack inside a storage room as Prince Lancifer followed the messenger to the throne room. Lancifer, it is time for you to find a wife, said the king. Ella has been nagging me about when you'll finally settle down and bring her grandchildren. You know how your mother wants grandchildren. No sooner than the word grandchildren had escaped his mouth than the throne room doors burst open again. Jeremy, I heard every last word of that. I have not been nagging you, merely suggesting that you finally bring our son up here and tell him he must find a wife. As I see you have done so, I have brought you some cakes as a reward. She snapped her fingers and a maid brought forth platters with cookies and cakes upon it. This must last you the rest of the day, my love. She smiled and kissed the king. Lancifer, darling, I have heard that the Princess Katerina of Teroth is looking for her husband. I believe it is proper these days for suitors to call upon the female, and so tomorrow, you're leaving for Tarat City, capital of Teroth. You will behave respectably. Your behavior reflects upon your father and your country. Lancifer bowed his head. Yes, mother. Is she a decent woman? You know I'm not going to marry a girl whose only concern is for when her next dress arrives. She is as beautiful as she is kind, they say. And her parents are quite pleasant. You will enjoy yourself. I'm sure of it. Ella waved her hand. You're dismissed. Go back, dear. You leave early in the morning. Prince Lancifer left and climbed the North Tower steps to his room at the top, grumbling about his mother the entire way. He threw a month's worth of clothes into a trunk and managed to fit a lute and 3 bottles of shampoo in it as well. He left at dawn the next morning and traveled by carriage for the better part of a week before reaching Tarat City and the front gate of the castle Teroth. I'm Lancifer of Rial, calling for Katerina of Teroth. He announced his presence to the castle guards. They checked the seals on the 12 pieces of parchment his parents had packed in his road bag, knowing he'd need them to declare his suit for the lovely princess. The head guard saluted him as his carriage passed through the gates, and the king and queen of Teroth warmly welcomed him to his castle. Like home, he was put into rooms in the North Tower, but here he was on the bottom floor rather than the top. It was nice, he mused, not having to climb up 1,000 stairs when he was already exhausted. He collapsed on the bed and slept till dinner. At dinner, Lancifer sat across from the lovely Katerina, and there was nervously smiled at her when he wasn't looking down at his plate. He made small talk with the king and queen, noticing the princess's strange absence from the conversation. Katerina, I am sure your voice is as lovely as the rest of you. Why, then, do you not speak? The queen stepped in and answered for her daughter. She has not spoken since she was stolen away as a child. We found her, but her voice has been lost to the threads of time. However, we have heard that she may regain her use of it if she were to meet and marry her one true love. He alone may coax her voice from her. Lucifer smiled. This is a good thing then, my lady. I cannot stand a woman who has nothing better to do than talk my ear off. Katerina, would you like to go stargazing down by the river in 2 nights' time? Though the night sky can not compare to your beauty, I would like nothing more than to gaze upon it with you beside me. She blushed and nodded, averting her gaze from the handsome prince. Take her nursemaid as a chaperone, the queen said. It will be most improper if you do not. I would do nothing less, Lucifer said, deferring to the proper woman. If you and the king would like to accompany us, you may. I think a picnic beneath the stars would be most wonderful. We'd have a small sweets and light drinks, I think. The stars come out far too late for a hearty dinner. We shall consider your offer and inform you tomorrow night. The queen smiled. Thank you for your thoughtfulness. It is late now, and I'm afraid we must go to bed. Good night, Prince Lucifer. Katerina, to bed with you. Lucifer waved at the princess as she followed her parents to the rooms, and he made his way back to the first floor of the North Tower, where he fell asleep as soon as his head touched the pillow. The next morning, he joined the Tarot royal family for breakfast and greeted Katerina with a kiss on the back of her hand and a twinkle in his eye. You are lovely, my dear lady. There are not words to describe to what extent, but know that you are the most beautiful creature I've ever laid eyes on. Katerina blushed and bowed her head as Lucifer rose from a bent knee. After they ate breakfast, he demonstrated his skill with the sword and horse, and they dined on sandwiches in the gardens at lunch. Lucifer found he was quickly warming up to the quiet princess, and he took her hand as they wandered the gardens. She smiled sunnily at him, and he returned her smile. She led him through her favorite parts, and he requested to see the greenhouse full of the small trees her land was known for. As she accompanied Lucifer through the greenhouse, he told her stories of his home and childhood. She reacted wonderfully, smiling in all the right places and nearly crying when the moment called for it. They arrived to dinner together. Her hair still a mess from when they lay on their backs atop a hill, watching clouds pass by, and his hands still dirty from helping a gardener prune a tree. The next morning, Lucifer met Katerina again, and she bid him good morning. He was shocked. She wasn't supposed to talk. Her voice was hoarse and clearly rusty from lack of use, but still beautiful, he thought. Will you accompany me to the music hall today? She asked. I would like to play for you. He nodded, ecstatic that she began to talk again. She sat down in front of the piano, and beautiful music flowed forth from her fingertips. She poured her heart into the music, and Lucifer was overwhelmed with the love she projected through the notes at him. As the final notes faded from the air, he whispered, I love you. And she returned in kind. And I love you. That night, they gazed at the stars and cuddled close on a blanket by the river, snacking on cookies and cakes. And every year, they would take a trip to the river on the same day to gaze at the stars that night. For years, they lived happily ever after, and their kingdoms grew stronger together. The end. That was a nice little story. It was cute and lighthearted. They nailed it. The problem with long stories, not that that was long, this next one is, so we're going to move it towards the end. Oh, it's very long. This is the short story subreddit. I'll move it to the end of the queue. If they're too long, then I can't enjoy my coffee properly. It's going to get too cold. And it appears as if I've picked... Oh, okay, it was just two so far. Okay. This one is a thriller titled, A Guy Walks into a Bar. A guy walks into a bar, sits down at the counter, and leans over to the guy next to him. You want to hear a joke? Yeah, I guess so, the stranger replies. Okay. So, there's a truck driver. He wakes up early in the morning. He puts on his uniform and he drives and drives and drives. He does this every single day. He is the hardest working driver east of the Mississippi. He's never missed a pickup, and his motto is, I will never quit until the job is done. Every day he drives, never stopping, never late, but one morning the driver spots something ahead of him. He realizes that it's a man in the middle of the road. The man is clearly suicidal, so the driver thinks he'll be doing this guy a favor by taking him out. No issue for the driver, he's always getting the job done. The problem is, the truck doesn't actually kill the guy, it just severely wounds him. So the driver gets out and approaches the man. The man is bleeding and has suffered major damage, but is still able to speak and says, "Oh my God, I've just had a revelation. When you hit me, my whole life flashed before my eyes. I realized that I'm too young to die. Thank you so much. Please help me get to a hospital. I have a new lease on life." The driver just looks down at the man and says, "I'll never quit until the job is done." He gets back in his truck, starts the engine, and drives ahead, finishing the job. He says, "Man, these roads are getting bumpy again. Someone should really fix that." And he howls with laughter all the way down the road. The stranger just looks at the man and says, "That was pretty dark. I mean, I guess I see the humor in it, but that isn't exactly a joke. You said you'd tell me a joke." "Of course. You're the kind of person that needs one setup and one punchline, huh? Well, here, try this one out. I asked myself the other day, what in the heck is going on around here? The cemeteries are full of people. The cemeteries are full, but people are still dying to get in." And the stranger cackles. You see, that's a joke right there. Right to the point. Simple. Those I'd be more than willing to hear more of if you got any more. All right. How about this one? A man walks down the street, smoking a cigarette in a sketchy part of town. A drifter runs up to him from underneath the bridge, or a box, or whatever tin can he was living in, and grabs him and says, "Please, sir, I need shelter and warmth. I'm begging you. I'm dying out here on the street." The man politely removes the drifter's hands from himself and says, "Certainly. There has to be room for you in my shed somewhere. I'm sure of it." The drifter was infinitely grateful and followed the man back to his home. Once they reached the shed, the man said, "Stay out here for just 1 second while I grab something." The drifter agrees. The man came back out with a baseball bat in one hand and a can of gasoline in the other, and the cigarette still flapping from his lips said, "Well, here we are." The drifter asked, "What are those for?" The man set the can of gas on the pavement and then proceeded to strike the drifter in the head with the baseball bat that he carried. The drifter unconscious on the ground, the man stopped the bat and grabbed the can of gasoline. He then emptied the can onto the man and disposed of it, looked at the drifter and said, "Give a man a match and he'll be warm for an hour. But set a man on fire and he'll be warm for the rest of his life." And then he dropped a cigarette. Stunned, the stranger says, "How do you come up with these?" "Art imitates reality," the man replies. The stranger nervously laughs. "You saying you actually did those things?" "No, but I bet someone has," he answers. The stranger looks around at the bar and notices that it's clearing out. He looks down at his watch. It's 1:47 a.m. He looks back up at the man and says, "Man, I gotta get going. The bar's closing soon anyways." "Ah, nonsense," the man says. "There's always time for one more joke. And this one is sure to have you rolling on the floor. I promise." "All right. One more joke. But then I literally have to go. My wife will kill me." Okay. So, the guy walks into a bar, but sits down at the counter and leans over to the next guy to him. He says, "Yeah, you want to hear the joke?" The guy says, "Yeah, I guess so." The man replies, "Okay, so there's a truck driver. He wakes up Wait. What are you doing here?" the stranger asks. "Oh, what? I'm trying to finish my joke," the man retorts. The stranger looks at the man's jacket. "Gibson Trucking Company." The man begins to pull out a pack of cigarettes. He stares directly into the stranger's eyes. "You smoke?" he says, offering one of the small white cylinders to the stranger. The stranger starts to feel tiny droplets of perspiration form around his forehead. No. I just quit, actually." He looks around again. They're the last two customers in the bar, and the bartender has just walked back into the kitchen to finish sweeping. The stranger is starting to feel yesterday's lunch gurgling in his stomach by now. "Can we get to the punchline already?" he asks anxiously. Punchlines. Punchlines. That's all I hear out of you. You really want this joke to end? "Please," begs the stranger. "All right, well, short and simple." The guy walks into the bar. He tells the stranger a few jokes, and then he stabs him. Wait. The man finishes the punchline. The stranger crashes to the floor as the man stands there giggling. A police officer enters through the barroom door. He says, "Hey Joe, I know it's almost closing." He sees the mess that lay before him. The man stops laughing. "Freeze!" exclaims the officer as he pulls out his pistol. "Put your hands where I can see them." The man looks back at the stranger on the ground. "Oh my lord." The man chuckles. The irony. I bet you wish the joke had lasted just a little longer. If you hadn't been so obsessed with that punchline, this guy could have saved you. He lets out a shriek of hilarity. The irony. The man falls to the ground in a fit of laughter. "Drop the knife, Chuckleface," the police screams. No. You don't get how perfect this is. The joke's finally on me, and yet there will never be a punchline, the man shouts. "I'm coming closer. I'm gonna cuff you. If you do not drop the knife, I will be forced to shoot. The man slowly rises back to his feet, still seizing with laughter. A cop walks into a bar, and a man charges him with a knife. He says, the man knows what will come next, but he still finds it all pretty funny. The man charges at the officer. The guy walks into a bar. A body gets dragged out of it. How's that for a punchline? Wasn't a bad story. But, okay. This next one is titled, Can You See the Moon? Can you see the moon? She whispers softly, her warm breath making tiny clouds in the cold air. Yes. The wind was howling, shaking the tree so violently he wondered if one would eventually fall over. Why can't I see the moon? He looked up, unable to look into her eyes. Not that it would have made a difference. When it is time, you will see it. He slowly looked down at her again. Her dress was almost completely red now. He felt them pressing behind his eyes, but he kept them back. There's still time. You can't give in yet. Can you see the moon? Her voice was surprisingly calm, and he almost wondered if she was even aware. Yes. He looked up towards the sky. I see the moon. I like the moon. You could see the corners of her mouth twitch, as if it wanted to move but lacked the strength. I like the moon too, he answered as his vision clouded up. Not yet. Your mother also likes the moon. He stroked her head softly like he always used to when she was younger. Her skin was soft and pale. It almost shone in the moonlight. Is Mom at the moon? Yes. He looked into her deep blue eyes, the eyes she had gotten from her mother. He still remembered the first time that he met her. She had looked so lovely in the moonlight. He also remembered how the moonlight embraced her as he lost her. Can you see the moon? Her voice was faint now. Yes. He reassured her, while softly caressing her face. I can't see the moon. He could not tell if she was worried or not. Her face looked more and more expressionless for every minute that passed by. You'll see it soon. It was considerably more difficult to hold them back now. Just a little longer. He knew he could not give in yet. He had to stay strong. For her. The air had gotten colder. He did not know for how long they had been there. The wind was blowing even more violently than before, yet he did not pay it any mind. He looked at her pale skin, and it had only gotten paler. I see it. I see the moon, she exclaimed suddenly, though so faintly he almost did not hear it. She lifted her arm slowly, using all the strength that she had left as if reaching for someone important. He grabbed her little hand firmly. This little hand that he had held so many times before felt so cold in his grasp tonight. was time. Go, he said, trying his best not to let his voice crack. Your mother is waiting for you. Dad? She whispered so weakly it was almost inaudible. Do you see the moon? The wind had stopped howling. The only sound left was his own breath. As he looked up at the cloudy night sky, he finally let them stream down his cheeks. No, he whispered to himself as the rain started to fall. That one got me in the feels a little bit. That one hit me in the feels. Annabelle versus the monster under the bed. A children's story. Annabelle versus the monster under the bed. Okay, Belly, it's time for bed. Mommy closed the book she had been reading and stood up, plopping Annabelle on her feet. Annabelle really wanted to hear the rest of the story, but she yawned before she could complain. And maybe Mommy was right. Annabelle started to skip down the hall to Mommy's room before she remembered. Big girls sleep in their own bed, Annabelle, Mommy had said. But don't worry about monsters, I'll check under the bed and keep you safe. Annabelle had pinky promised Mommy that she would sleep in her own bed tonight, and everybody knows that you can't break a pinky promise. Annabelle had only made that promise after Mommy said that she would let her wear her Batgirl costume to bed instead of her jammies. Batgirl was brave, and Annabelle wasn't afraid of anything when she was Batgirl. At the end of the hall, Annabelle took a deep breath and turned to her own room instead of Mommy's. She glared at her pretty white bed with its fluffy pink comforter. I am a big girl, she grumbled. Yes, you are. Mommy came into the room behind her. She smiled and gave Annabelle a hug, but always made her feel better. I'm so proud of you. Annabelle smiled. She liked making Mommy proud. She took off her hearing aids, or ear buddies, as she and Mommy called them, and brushed her hair. Mommy tucked her in, and then they said their nighttime prayers. Then it was time for Mommy to check under the bed. Annabelle's tummy gurgled, and she shivered. She snuggled deep under her covers and refused to be scared, even if there was a monster under the bed. Her Mommy could take him. No monsters under there, Mommy announced. Annabelle was happy at first, but then she remembered something. Benjamin at school said that grown-ups can't see monsters. She pouted, and Mommy laughed. I promise, Belly, no monster is gonna get you. She kissed Annabelle on the forehead and tucked the covers more tightly around her. I love you, Princess. I love you too, Mommy. Mommy turned out the light and shut the door, leaving Annabelle alone for the night. The room looked different in the pink glow of her nightlight. Shadows seemed to dance on the walls, the floor, and the ceiling. Annabelle felt her tummy gurgle again. She squeezed her eyes shut tight. I'm a big girl. I'm not afraid, she whispered to herself. She pulled her blanket over her head, and then she heard it. There was a soft rustling noise under the bed. She tried to ignore it. Mommy said that sometimes when we're scared, our imagination tricks us. Annabelle didn't think that it was very nice of her imagination. She tried to force herself to fall asleep, humming Let It Go over and over in her blanket cocoon. It was no use. The rustling kept growing louder. Suddenly, Annabelle was angry. This was her room. Who did this monster think he was? She was a big girl. More than that, right now, she was Batgirl. Annabelle kicked off her covers and hopped onto the floor. She crouched down and glared into the shadows under her bed, her hands bunched into angry fists. "Hey, turd butt," she hissed, not wanting to wake Mommy. "This is my room. I'm not some baby you can scare off. I'm 5. She thrust her palm forward, fingers spread wide. "You have to leave right now. I'm not afraid of you." Big orange eyes blinked open in the dark, and Annabelle jumped back. She didn't scream, though. She was startled, but not scared, because the eyes weren't actually scary. They looked like a cartoon. "You're not," a small voice whispered. At least that's what Annabelle thought it said. It was hard to tell in the dark when she couldn't see its mouth move. She told the monster to wait here and ran to the dresser. She popped in her purple, sparkly earbuds into her ears and turned them on. "What?" she asked. "You're not afraid of me?" "Oh, no." Annabelle popped the pea. "I'm a superhero, so you better go scare some other kid." "But I don't want to scare anybody," the monster grumbled. Annabelle sighed, exasperated. "Look, can you just come out here? I'm having a hard time hearing you in the dark." There was a shuffling noise. A bright green hand flopped out from underneath the bed, and then another. They almost looked like paws, Annabelle thought. They were fuzzy, with 4 stubby fingertips tipped with tiny claws. She saw its arms next. They were long and yellow, skinny like noodles. He pulled himself out from under her bed. The monster stood in front of Annabelle, orange eyes blinking owlishly in the pink light. He was shorter than she was, with a fuzzy red body shaped like a big potato. His arms reached all the way down to the floor, where his green hands rested next to his bright green feet. Annabelle didn't even see the monster's legs through his fur. He was so short. She burst out laughing. The monster frowned. He turned to go back under the bed. "Well, if you're just going to make fun of me." The Annabelle felt bad and stopped laughing. She didn't mean to hurt his feelings. She grabbed his soft green paw to stop him. "No, don't go. I'm sorry," she cried. I didn't mean to laugh. Benjamin just said that monsters were big and scary, and that they ate little girls because they have cooties. But you're not scary. You're cute." Annabelle thought the monster blushed under his fur. He even seemed to smile a little bit. "Who's Benjamin?" he asked. Annabelle shrugged. Boy at school." "Well, Benjamin sounds stupid." Annabelle giggled and clapped her hands over her mouth. She wasn't allowed to call people stupid, but maybe the monster's mommy said that was okay. "What's your name?" she asked. The monster looked confused. "I don't think I have one of those. Do you?" "Of course, I'm Annabelle," she said. She had never heard of somebody not having a name. "If you don't have a name, what do your parents and friends call you?" "Oh, I don't have any of those either," the monster said. That made Annabelle sad. She wanted to give the monster a hug, but she knew it wasn't polite to hug people without asking. She guessed the same was true of monsters. Then she had another idea. "I can be your friend if you want," she said. The monster perked up at that. "Really?" Annabelle laughed. "Of course. We can play games and tell each other stories." The monster grinned. He had 2 big teeth, one on the top and one on the bottom. "That sounds like fun." You'll need a name, Annabelle said. Annabelle loved naming things. She had named her puppy Leo, and all of her stuffed animals had their own names too. She looked at the monster for a few seconds, thinking hard. I think... You look like a Roger. Annabelle did a motion with her hand when she said it, her first and second fingers crossed. The monster looked confused. What's that? He made the same motion with his paw. It's your name. Annabelle did it again. Roger and sign. Sometimes it's hard to hear people talk, so I use my hands to talk too. Like this. Your name is Roger. The monster watched her hands move with wide eyes. That's neat, he said. Is there a sign for Annabelle? Yeah, I'll teach it to you. She showed the monster how to sign her name. He grinned his two-toothed smile. You'll have to teach me how to say more things than sign. Annabelle smiled. Of course, Roger, she said, suddenly realizing that she hadn't asked the monster if she could call him that. Is that okay? Do you like the name? Oh. The monster exclaimed. He had been so interested in learning the signs that he had forgotten. Yes. It's a very good name. Roger. I can be Roger. Awesome, Annabelle said emphatically. I'm glad that you're not a scary monster, Roger. Roger laughed a low, pleasant, rumbly sound. Me too. She and Roger stayed awake for a little while longer. They sat on the floor and played with Annabelle's stuffed animals. She showed Roger her ear buddies and she taught him how to sign in more words. She told him all about kindergarten and her mommy and her puppy Leo. Before long, her eyes started getting heavy, and she leaned more and more to the side. She almost toppled over, but Roger caught her with a noodly arm. I think you shouldn't go back to bed, Annabelle. Annabelle pouted, but she knew he was right. She couldn't stop yawning, and she had to get up early for school tomorrow. Will you come back tomorrow night? She asked, hopefully. Of course. Now that I have a friend, Roger said. He helped her stand up and tucked her back into bed. That's good, Annabelle sighed. Her eyes were already closed. I'm glad I met you, Roger. Me too, Annabelle, he said. Sleep tight. He patted her hand with a big fuzzy paw. Annabelle smiled, and Roger slid back under the bed to wherever monsters go to sleep. Annabelle couldn't wait to tell Benjamin that he was wrong at school tomorrow, and Mommy would be proud of her for making a new friend, no longer scared of monsters of the dark. She drifted off to sleep to dream about her new friends and big orange eyes. That was nice. My mom's getting sleep, and I scratch my forehead. Okay. This next one is titled, I offered a homeless man a coffee, but he asked me why. I saw a homeless man outside of my local coffee shop. I offered to buy him a coffee. He appeared to be in his 60s with frizzy white hair similar to what a mad scientist might don in an old black and white film. Winter was coming, and the chill air was a constant reminder of that. On one condition, the man replied. I get to ask you a question, and you must answer it truthfully. Well, sure. What is it? I said. Not now. First, let's enjoy a warm drink. And so we did. I bought us both coffees and we sat down at the table, where the baristas could not eavesdrop on us and where the icy air that rushed through the door could not reach us. The older man must have sensed my anticipation as he spoke again. Why did you buy me this coffee? Well, I stammered. I suppose you looked like you were in need, so I wanted to help you out. Wrong answer. And then the man stood up and walked out the door. I dreamed that night of the universe and all the stars within it. I floated through the void, listening to the cacophony of screaming stars that I hoped would one day all make sense. I had this dream every night, and every night I hoped I was closer to understanding the lyrics of the Stars' song. My father told me once that the meaning is hidden in the stars, and I believe that if I can decipher the song, maybe I could finally understand my true purpose in this world. My walk to work the next day was nearly identical to the day prior. Frigid air, a moody, overcast sky, and a homeless man outside a coffee shop. I approached him again, this time with an answer already in mind. The homeless man spoke to me before I had a chance to say anything. You didn't uphold your end of our bargain, friend, he said. You must answer truthfully this time. And again, I bought the man a coffee, and again we sat down at the rustic wooden table away from peering eyes. Why? The man asked. Did you buy me this coffee? Buying you a coffee makes me feel morally good. Helping others in need is something I strive to do because it makes me a better person, I replied confidently. But I did not need this coffee. I could live on without it, so did you really help me? Would you be the same person had you bought it or not? If you had you would be the same person if you had bought it or not. If you had chosen not to buy me it, that dialogue would still have run through your head, and maybe on a different day you would have chosen to do so. Buying me this coffee makes you no different. It may be a way to show your character to others, but you've done nothing to improve who you are. You are and always will be who you have been. No human can escape that. And with that, the man stood up and left once again. I dreamt again of floating through space, and once again, the agonizing screams of the stars pierced my ears. So long I had tried to decipher the song, all for naught. I did not need to decipher their song. I have always understood it. Once again, I woke up and left for work, and once again the homeless man stood outside the coffee shop. Once again, I offered to buy him a coffee, and once again, he asked me a question. Why did you buy me this coffee? There was no reason to buy you this coffee. Just did it because I wanted to. And with that, the man smiled, thanked me for the coffee, and left me alone with my thoughts for the last time. When my father last spoke to me, he must have known that the stars don't say anything. It seems like our next few stories are going to be on the longer side. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to go to that Be Right Back screen for a moment. I'm going to refresh my coffee. And I guess we'll start on these three stories. Give me about 2 or 3 minutes. I'll be back very shortly. Thank you for being here. with some coffees. And we didn't spill this time. Aren't you so proud? I already want to drink it, but can't. But I'll have a little bit of water. On fire. No. No. Okay. This one's titled, What if you could reset back to 10 years old? This one popped out of me because I'm like, yeah. Like I feel like everyone's wondered something similar. Maybe not exactly 10 years old, but just being a kid. With like everything that you have now. I think my answers changed when I was like younger. I was like, yeah, let's go. Now I'm like, yeah. I'm good. I got you and I'm attending movie night. Oh, mute me. Enjoy a movie with your friends. I appreciate you being here though. I hope you enjoy your movie. What are you watching? Is this something cool? What kind of movies do you like? I rubbed my eyes, but the genie was still there when I opened them again. His bulky, dark blue torso originated from a trail of smoke wafting from a broken lamp on the ground. Fair enough. Oh, it's you. You poor soul, the genie said as he looked over to me. I suppose it's only fair I offer you the same deal. His massive figure was stooped over and his eyes were downcast. I was running late to my own engagement party. The rain was pit-pattering on the sidewalk as we stared one another down. My mouth was hanging wide open as I struggled to believe what I was actually seeing. Here are the terms, he said finally. You're 28 now, correct? So, you will be 10 years old after the reset, if you choose to accept. You keep all your knowledge and memory, and the decision is irreversible. He scrutinized me with his large pupilless eyes as if assessing me, trying to guess how I might respond. It's no understatement that your life's course will irrevocably change. Think carefully. Are you happy with things as they are? I gulped. I've read about these hypotheticals on internet forums before. You've got 10 seconds to respond. Do you want to turn the clock back 18 years? I woke up in class and blinked. A flood of memories came rushing back to me. I was sitting in my 4th grade classroom. The walls looked incredibly tall, like I was seeing the world from a much lower angle. I looked down and saw 2 tiny, meaty hands attached to a pudgy set of arms. The genie's spell had worked. I pumped my fist silently and mouthed, yes. Ideas raced through my mind. This was my chance to fix everything. As soon as class was out, I ran to the library but found myself wheezing before I even made it halfway. I went through a long pudgy phase as a child, and that lasted until college. I had gotten little luck with the ladies, and my self-esteem had shrunk as my gut grew. When I finally got to the library, I logged into a computer and searched for Little League football teams. In the years to come, my decades of being a sports fan combined with the youthful years I could now spend conditioning my body placed me at the top of my high school football team with ease. At the same time, I tried to convince my dad to buy Amazon stock. He was impressed with how much I knew about the company as a 10-year-old, but skeptical. I've been caught in that trap before. Market's still not fully recovered, he argued. Besides, what is cloud? Money had always been tied around the house when I was growing up, and now that I was armed with the knowledge of the future, I was determined to change that. I pre-recorded a few CNBC TV segments and left them playing for my dad to see when he got home. And, after a few weeks, I finally convinced him to dip his toes in. The first few shares he bought quickly began to climb in value, winning his appetite and persuading him to take out a large loan against our house to buy more. I felt briefly sorry for my mom as she chewed him out for taking such a huge risk, but the anger quickly dissipated as their investment quickly doubled, then tripled. By the time I was winning back-to-back state championships in high school, our family had rapidly climbed the socioeconomic ladder to the top 1%. As an awkward kid riddled with anxiety and ADHD, school had been hard for me. In my past life, I had barely managed to graduate, and the only school that accepted me was a local community college. In this life, I was confident, popular, and my family could easily afford my medication. I graduated with a perfect GPA and a sports scholarship to Harvard. There was nothing I could want for during the second go at being a teenager. I dated multiple girls just for fun and lost my virginity at age 19 instead of 25. However, when I was alone in bed at night, my dreams were still filled with memories of my fiancée. When Facebook came around, I immediately made an account and looked for her, and was disappointed to find that she wasn't on the platform. Every year I would search again until her profile finally popped up in my sophomore year of college. Time froze momentarily when I finally saw her face again after 9 years. She was as beautiful as I remembered, and I couldn't wait to meet her again. Then I had a sickening thought. Nervously, I scrolled down her profile, looking for a relationship status. The display read back, no info. I thought about sending her a message, but stopped myself and closed the page. She had a life before she met me, and following her this closely on Facebook felt wrong. It reminded me of a story she told me about a guy who stalked her social media accounts on a daily basis, regularly sending creepy messages until she blocked him. The stalker had no profile picture and constantly asked her to go on a date with him, stating that if she just gave him a chance, he could make her happy. I shuddered at the thought of becoming like that stalker and decided to wait until we met in person to talk to her. In my past life, I had an idea for a software business that I thought would change the world. When I graduated from the community college, I was nearly penniless. What's up, gutter? How you doing? Hope you're having a good night. Grab yourself a comfy, cozy coffee or tea or beverage of your choice and enjoy your time at the ASMR Cafe. Yahoy. Yahoy. But instead of looking for a job like my parents recommended, I decided to take out a loan to start a company with a few friends. The idea had some legs, but I had no connections and no experience. After a few years of floundering with little to show for it, we shut the company down. It was that fateful day when I was sitting in a cafe worrying about how I was going to pay my debts when she walked into my life. In this life, I was a Harvard student from an affluent family. I chose to major in economics and quickly introduced myself to every computer science student on campus. Before long, I put together a team and secured funding from a group of professors. We launched our product in my senior year at Harvard, and by the time I graduated, our platform had over 1 million users, and Forbes called me the most promising young CEO of this generation. In the years following Harvard, our company grew exponentially, and my stake in the business increased in value to several $billions with a B. eyes were proud, but I didn't get to see them much, nor did I have much time for relationships. But every now and then, I would still check on her Facebook profile just to make sure. And each time I looked, her relationship status displayed the same thing. No info. So when the day came, I gave my security detail the day off, flew into the town I lived in during my past life, and waited at the same cafe where my fiance and I had met. I made sure to arrive a few hours early just in case the timing wasn't perfect. I remembered exactly how our first meeting went. Our gazes met across the room. She was in line, and I was sitting at a table. She smiled at me, momentarily washing away my worries about debt and my failure of a life. She got a drink. She sat down and we talked the afternoon away. A few of the best years of my life later, got down on one knee and put a ring on her finger. The wedding was 2 weeks away and I encountered that genie on the sidewalk. My daydreaming was interrupted by the door swinging open and my fiance walking in. She looked exactly the way I remembered her on that day, down to the white blouse and straw hat with a pink ribbon. A smile plastered across her pretty face as she talked to the man she came in with. I tucked behind my coffee and peered over the brim at them. The man was tall and lanky, a thick straggly beard wrapping around his chin. Their gazes were locked on one another, as if everyone else was just a background character. A million thoughts raced through my mind, and I dreaded the worst. Then, he leaned in for a kiss, and to my chagrin, she smiled and returned it. Then the barista called for them to pick up the drinks, and I began to pack my things, hanging my head in defeat. Then, she called my name. "It's you," she exclaimed as she scurried towards the table. "You're the CEO of that startup." I nodded and tried to play it cool as I sipped my coffee. "Sorry, I'm a bit of a fan of your company's work," she said, extending her hand. "I'm Melanie." I shook it and refrained from bursting out of that. Of course, I knew who she was. That I had thought about her and missed her touch for the last 15 years. But her hand felt so right in mine. "Nice to meet you," I said with a polite smile. I found myself at a loss for words. 15 years, and I didn't know what to say to her. I remembered our last conversation well. It was about her engagement gift. She wanted to know what it was, but I refused to say. She would just have to wait until the party. These thoughts triggered a flood of memories. Since I never arrived at the party, she never got to see her gift. Is everything okay?" Her voice snapped me out of my misery. I realized my eyes had become moist and quickly wiped them dry. "Yeah," I responded, clearing my throat. "So, Melanie, what do you do?" It turned out that in this life, she was an executive assistant, otherwise known as a secretary. It just so happened that I found myself unable to handle my own schedule anymore, or not perform any administrative tasks. So she took a perfunctory glance at her LinkedIn and then offered her a job, which she quickly accepted. "By the way, this is my boyfriend Jacob," she said, gesturing to the tall man behind her. He smiled at me nervously and shook my hand with a sweaty palm. Being a minor celebrity in this life, it was common for people to be a bit anxious when meeting me. In the years that followed, Melanie worked tirelessly to ensure that I never had to worry about any task or issue below my pay grade. I found myself relying on her more and more, and our friendship began to grow. I did my best to keep it professional and respect her boundaries. One night, as we were working past midnight, she quipped that I had become her work husband. In a moment of panic, I promoted her to a project manager role, ensuring that we would no longer see each other daily. She was overjoyed. and we celebrated with a round of espresso shots and the last bag of kale chips. I had to push her away. It pained me too much. To hear her say my name and the word husband in the same sentence. I should be her actual husband, and yet her relationship with her tall, bearded boyfriend had blossomed, and they were set to marry in a few months. By the way, we're having an engagement party tomorrow, she said, artfully tossing the last kale chip into the air and catching it in her mouth. It's a small guest list. Jacob wanted to keep it down low, but you should totally come. I realized then I was approaching the turning point. Tomorrow was the rainy night in my other life that I ran into the genie with the broken lamp. Perhaps it was fate that their engagement party was on the same day that ours had been. After much internal conflict, I drove to the toy store and bought a giant shark plushie. The same gift I had gotten her in the last life. She was deeply afraid of sharks. And so, as a sick joke that was perfectly in line with our relationship, I had bought her the plushie for her to cuddle with and face her fears every night. Keeping with my practice of amending the mistakes of my past life, I had my limo drive me to her engagement party instead of walking, saving the shark plushie from getting drenched in the rain. She greeted me with a bright smile and a peck on the cheek when I arrived. Then I showed her the gift and her expression turned into shock. "Did you guys plan this?" she asked, after a few moments of pause. I shook her head, confusion darting across my face. "It's the same gift that Jacob got me," she said. "Like a carbon copy." It took me a few seconds to register her words, then I recalled the first words the genie had said to me. "Oh, it's you. You poor soul. I suppose it's only fair I offer you the same deal." Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate it. You're very sweet. What? What? But why? But why? The words caught in my throat, unwilling to face the horrifying reality. But I forced them out. "Hey, Melanie," I asked. "Do you mind if I ask you what he got for your last birthday?" Their expression changed from distress to joy, like she was recalling a sweet memory. It was super cute. He created a treasure hunt around the house, with each clue leading me to a gift. "Hey, are you alright?" I wasn't alright. I felt like keeling over. Running my hand through my hair, I asked, "What about the year before?" She laughed nervously. "What's going on? Trying to get inspired for someone special in your life?" Jacob appeared at the door behind me. Or behind her. He started to speak, but then his eyes skirted from her to me to the shark plushie I was holding. His expression formed an O shape. I looked at him and felt a wave of fury washing over me. "Let me guess what it was," I said softly. "A watercolor set." He looked like a deer in headlights, and she looked like she had just seen an incredible magic trick. "Yeah, that's right," she replied. "But how did you know?" Maybe you told him at work," he said quickly, trying to avoid meeting my gaze. Let's get back inside, honey. It's cold out here, and we've got guests." I I grabbed his arm and squeezed hard. My high school and college years of playing football in this life ensured that he could not break free. Stop it, guys. What's going on? Melanie was looking at me, then him, then back, searching for answers. And neither of us said a thing. I looked at him expectantly. He looked back at me pleadingly. Why don't you tell her? I said in a low voice. And he shook his head. Please, he whimpered. You have everything. You spent these years bettering yourself, but all I have is her. All I ever wanted was her. That makes two of us. I roared, charging into the house and knocking him into the wall, sending both of us tumbling to the ground. He scrambled to his feet, but I caught his ankle and pulled him down. There was a rush of feet as the guests crowded around us, phones filming away as a well-known billionaire tackled a man at his own engagement party. That stupid genie, he yelled as he kicked at my face, landing a few blows. Of all the people to give the second wish to, it had to be you. I pulled him towards me and held him from behind, preventing him from moving. Tell her, I hissed as I tightened my grip. Explain what you did. A pair of arms pulled at me and I turned to see her face close to mine, soaked in tears. Please, stop, she said. Let's talk this out. I don't understand what's wrong. I should have shattered that lamp into 1,000 pieces. He croaked in short gasps of air. Then I remembered. The lamp. I let go of him, and he fell to the floor, wheezing for air. I turned to Melanie. It's gonna sound insane, I said. But you'll understand soon. This guy was your Facebook stalker in a past life. I ran out of the door and found the rain coming down in buckets, utterly drenched my clothes and hair. I ignored it, making a mad sprint down the road towards the street lamp where this all began. Through the wall of rain, I made out a glimmering on the ground. I stooped over and picked it up, and felt its cold metallic sting my skin. Though my hands were frozen from the cold, I began rubbing the lamp vigorously. Come out. Please, I screamed. A pair of hands shoved me from behind and I fell face forward. The lamp fell from my hands and clattered to the ground, shattering. I spun around and clocked him in the face, knocking him on his behind. The blood from his nose mixed with the rain streaming down his face. I grabbed his collar and wound up for another punch. Greetings, mortals. A deep voice boomed from behind. Slowly turning, he came face to face with the genie that I had met 18 years ago. His deep blue skin shimmered under the street lamp's light and seemed unaffected by the downpour. He towered over both of us, like a god speaking to his creations. I see things have not gone according to plan, he said, looking at us with pity in his eyes. For either of you. Please, genie, I said, grant me one more wish. Undo all of this and reset things to the way that they were before. I dropped Jacob and crawled towards the mythical creature. The genie furrowed his brow. So, you would give up all of your wealth and return to destitution. Relinquish the memories of a happy and stable childhood. Exchange them for your old life of failure. He asked, and I nodded vigorously. I no longer cared. 18 years of prosperity was not worth losing the 2 years of bliss I had with her. He seemed to think it over, but shook his head. I cannot grant another wish to the same mortal, he said. I'm sorry. His expression seemed downcast, but then he saw something behind me and his eyes lit up. I turned to see Melanie there, her tears mixing with the rain, drenching down her face. "What on earth?" she whispered, seemingly in a daze. "Coffee." "These men have fought 2 lifetimes to be by your side," the genie explained, gesturing towards me. "He was meant to marry you in a past life." He then pointed at Jacob, who was lying unconscious on the ground. "While that went banned from you from afar. When he found me, he asked to have his life reset by 18 years. He used that time to carry out a meticulous plan to win your heart." Melanie's face was inscrutable as she took all of this in. "Then you gave him the same wish, right?" she said, finally looking towards me. The genie nodded. "Jacob mimicked everything I did," I said. "Down to the same birthday gifts. The man you've been dating was a copy of me." I slowly walked towards her and took her shivering hand in mine. "Unfortunately human," the genie interrupted. "Her feelings in this life are not for you." Her expression betrayed the truth. She looked at her feet, avoiding my gaze. My heart felt like it was dropping into the soles of my shoes and disappearing into the ground below. "I love Jacob," she said, her voice cracking. "At least, I think I do. I don't know what to believe anymore. This is all insanity." She buried her face in her hands and sank to the ground. "Fortunately for you, woman," the genie said, "my wishes come in threes." He placed an enormous blue hand on her shoulder. "Tell me, what do you wish for?" Melanie wiped the tears from her eyes and looked at me. I smiled weakly at her. I had accepted my fate. Whatever she decided would be the life I had to live. My vision began to grow dark. She opened her mouth to speak, but the words were inaudible. I leaned in, trying hard to hear her, but felt the strength being sapped from my body. Then darkness. It was late. I checked my phone again and saw my Uber was still 10 minutes away. A slight drizzle began to pitter-patter on my skin, and I looked down worryingly at the shark plushie I was holding. My phone buzzed with the alert of a text message. It was from Melanie. It was nice, but it was I feel like it was worth. I feel like it was worth the length, to me at least. Add story to queue. I have 2 more. I do need to find more of this, though. I guess we can go ahead and find some. Perfect time to drink coffee, see what I look, I guess. Interviews with survivors of the apocalypse. Sounds interesting. What's it about? Does it say so? Or like, you know, does it fit? Does it fit the vibes? nothing spicy. If it is, send it again, and I'll read it. I'll read it. I can see you writing too, which will be pretty neat. Oh, okay. Harvest Moon related? Oh, what is that? That's a game, isn't it? Oh, I'll look this up. It sounds so familiar. It's a farming sim, right? That's gotta be. Okay. Yeah. Oh. I never played it. But I do remember seeing it a lot. Oh. They had it for the PS1, right, too? Let me see. Let me look this up. Yeah, okay. Do you know if it's been re-released in any way? I know a few people who like farming sims. I'm sure they've played it. But, I think this had to be at least one of the first ones. Or at least one of the first big ones. Because we had it released over here. Yeah, that'd be cool. There's so many. Yeah. Okay. Oh, I have to agree to stuff. I don't like doing that, but I suppose I will. Something new in the Felts. One day he decided that maybe Vinny the plant would like a nice change of scenery. A cute little fig for Earth Day. Notes. What is AN? I can ask you questions directly. Going to my first Harvest Moon fanfic. I had the idea for Earth Day, but here it is now. Better late than never. Great, right? There. Okay. Alright. Sippies. Okay. Now I know. But will I remember? If I mess up any names, forgive me. Or words. Yeah, it happens. Hey, how do you do? What's up with you? Greeted the ever-chuffer voice of Vinny, the rather odd plant that you had surprisingly grown fond of over the passing seasons, all the puns intended. You smiled and patted all three of the enormous plant's heads before heading over to very special crops. A lovely pink teapot-shaped fruit and a shockingly cakey and sickly sweet donut that was somehow a fruit as well. These sure look tasty, but I gotta let you know, mixing these two together ain't gonna get you anything new. Don't worry, I wouldn't want you wasting any crops. I'm not wasting anything. I want you to enjoy these. Take actual bites, maybe? I gently teased, making the middle face look delighted. I coaxed my donut crop closer to it, and instead of vanishing in one gulp, the smaller living plant bowl took small, almost polite bites. An adorable chomp after the other a few times, and the sweet treat of a crop was gone. Enjoy the look, Seon. Thank you for being here. And when you go to bed, have sweet dreams, okay? Thank you for being here. Good night. Good night. Both the heads who weren't eating exclaimed simultaneously. Hey, howdy, hey, say. That sure was delicious. Thank you for sharing, bud. I suppose I'm the bud here. Here, try this too. I reminded with a smile, gently placing the sprout end of the teapot fruit to the eager middle bud's mouth. After a bite, a warm honey-filled tea from within the bizarrely wonderful fruit was found. four friend drink heartily and happily, and I chuckled, reminded of how baby cows sucked rapidly at their mother's milk from a bottle. Wowza, what the? Vinny gasped, overwhelmed by the taste, not to mention the fruit's fun little surprise of actually having tea in it to boot. Goodness, I gotta say, you really topped yourself today, and here I thought the last crop was the talk of the valley. Appreciate you sharing so much with me, pal. I don't know why I'm doing the... it's fine. Over the last couple of years, Vinny had helped your farm profits grow so much due to his particular seed-making skills. You figured this was the least you could do and thought about how you could do more. As the gears turned, you began to wonder just why the clearly sentient plant wasn't outside among your crops, basking in the warm sun of the fresh new spring season. It seemed like the perfect change of scenery for the friendly fern. You nodded, mind made up. With goodbye pats on the head to Vinny, you turned and left. You had to find Takakura. He'd most likely be okay with the idea, but it was still polite to ask before taking his leafy roommate. Not only did Takakura agree, he loved the idea so much, apparently, that after you returned from burrowing and the archaeological dig site, you were surprised to see Vinny planted happily in the corner of your newly acquired fertile field. No. Hey there, kid. Welcome back. This is going to be a sort of surprise, but well... Walking over to get a closer look, you smiled brightly at being worn out from farming and the dig site work on top of it. The haul was worth it, thankfully. Lovely moonlight ores, coins, and 2 whole golden forks. Hey, howdy do. Welcome home to you, Vinny cheered happily, wiggling about in his patch of earth. He looked so much happier to have soil to stretch his roots out in. The soil's nice and cool from winter still. Good thing, too, tomorrow's going to be really sunny. Takakura let off the soft chuckle. Well, what do you know? I feel a little bad keeping him cooped up. I had no idea that bringing him outside would make it possible to know about the weather. He patted Vinny's multiple heads with elation. Just in time, too, for you suddenly heard the squeal of a by now familiar new sight on your farm. Ooh, what's that? Squealed our barely a toot of a toddler. You watched them sprint as fast as their waddly legs could carry them. The patch of soil your new weather protector occupied. Ah, well, howdy do. This makes me think of Mr. Henke. That's kind of what I'm doing. That's why I'm leaning towards the high-pitched voice. Oh, no. Just what are you, Tiny? Vinny happily asked, leaning both large heads at the curious child, worried you'd soon hear screams of fright. You were relieved that only excited and happy giggles left them in a loud, chortly fit. I'm a baby. What are you? Kiddo adorably challenged with a laugh. Me? Why, last time I checked, I believe I was a plant. Yep, still a plant. Our poor child was a mess of giggles and making a show of rolling in the garden while pointing at the newcomer to the farm. You funny. I like plants. You the best one ever. You stay, yes? Before the words, of course, could leave my mouth, another surprise sound came from the direction of the house. Whoa. Is that a plant, like, totally alive? Kafasta called from across the yard before making his way over, much faster than the normal laid-back swagger of a pace he had set himself at. Hello, and howdy do. Just who are you? Then he greeted yet another new person. The plant was sure he'd be so nervous to meet anyone new, but so far this was not only easy, it was fun. Kastafa, more than excited to be able to talk to a plant and get feedback, was happy to answer. I'm Kafasta, just a guy who digs nature and music. You seem like you'd like to hear the strum on my guitar sometime. Vinny bounced back bounced and wiggled with glee.
Oh boy, I've never heard a guitar, and now I'll be getting a private concert? Wow, this is gonna be great. Thank you for moving me out here.
Oh, yeah? What do you go by? Gustav asked.
I'm just Vinny.
Vinny the plant?
Always have been, and
Maybe always will be.
I've been eating crops given to me to make the funny plants around here. I love veggies. If you ever got a spare tomato, I'll gladly snap it on up.
Welcome in, Lux. We're reading Gutter's fanfic of Harvest Moon, and it's nearly done. Precious. Me? Yahoy. Yahoy. Ben, he eats vegetables.
You can eat all mines up.
Kiddo cheered. Their adorable plan now revealed. Gustafa laughed, picking them up and starting back to the house. It was dinner time soon, and our toddler needed another wash-up beforehand after rolling around. Silly little goose. If they ate all your veggies, how will you grow? Huh?
Oh, yeah.
Your nose caught a whiff of the dinner Gustafa was working on in the house. The scent of evening spring air only elevated the smell of your stomach, growled in response. Sounds like you better get inside. I'll take care of your animals for the evening, Takakura offered. Your entire body thanked the stoic but cold-hearted man as he walked off, catching up with Gustafa. Takakura gave Vinny's head a pat before getting to those promised chores. As the cows mooed their tune of being milked in the peaceful spring evening, Vinny the plant wiggled happily in his patch of earth.
Yeah.
He sang happily to himself and the other plants in the field.
Now this is nice.
Finished. Notes. Yes, I married Gustafa, and yes, he is the best choice, XD. Happy belated Earth Day, everyone. Go make a plant, happy today. Heart. There we go. That was written by our very own Gutter. Gustafa's best. I'll have to take your word for it. You really hope I stream often? So far, it's been every day. I'm aiming for every weekday from 9 to 12 p.m. Roughly. I'm really bad with scheduling, but I'm trying my best. I'm trying really hard. Hopefully that'll be enough. We will find out. Tonight's was unplanned. It's normally during the day for sure. Best ever? No. So early. Sometimes I'm sure there'll be random things too, but thanks. I appreciate it. That's a tail.
And my tail?
Yeah, you're very welcome. Thanks, Aeon. Thank you. Oh, whoa. This is the first rate I've ever had. Nyahoy. Thank you, Jellyfish Queen. I appreciate you. My name is Tofu. Gucci. You can call me either one, whatever you prefer. I'm fine with both. I do ASMR. I love coffee and reading stories. We normally chat in between them for a little bit.
Yeah.
So, if you don't have anything else to do, and you want to stick around and listen to some nice stories and enjoy a cozy, inviting atmosphere, pour yourself some coffee, pour yourself some tea, get a beverage of your choice, maybe a little snack and a favorite little blankie, and let's curl up. And let me read stories to you. I'm honored to be your first read. Thank you very much. Tofu. No. It is I'm a mostly say-so streamer. I try to keep everything light and happy in here. Very cherry popped. Hang that up on a wall, Jelly. Being the first raider. So. Thank you, Sam. We have a story here titled I Pretended to Be a Missing Girl. Michaela Murray went missing 12 years ago on the eve of her 18th birthday. She didn't have any big plans or anything, but her friends described her as having been in a particularly good mood for what was an otherwise perfectly normal Friday. She had gone to school, soccer practice, work, and then came home for a night of movies with her kid brother James. He was more excited for her birthday than she was. When he woke in the middle of the night, he saw her headlights shining through his window and watched as they rushed down their country road, not knowing that it was the last he'd ever see of her. The poor kid was only 5 and would be forever tormented over why she had left him or why she never came back. It wasn't until the sun came up that the cold Saturday morning that anyone realized something was wrong. Her parents entered her room to wish her a happy birthday, only to find her bed empty, car gone, and phone off. Also, I just remembered, if there's any sort of triggers that you want, pops, tappies, or rubbing the mic, anything like that I can do for you, jellyfish, or something that, to thank you for the raid, please let me know. I'll get back to the story now. They'd started their rounds of calls to all Michaela's friends, but nobody had seen or heard from her. Panic really started to set in when Michaela's car was found abandoned on the side of a heavily wooded road, facing the wrong direction, practically in the middle of nowhere, where there were no parks or hiking trails, nor were there any signs of a struggle, or any evidence of where she might have gone next. You're so sweet. Thank you. Until Michaela's parents followed that road on a map. They knew that she had a boyfriend, Tom. He was a year older and had gone off to college. He'd been trying to get Michaela to come visit him, but her parents forbid it. But if they hadn't, this was the very road Michaela would have taken to get there. So while Linda Murray filed the missing persons report, Paul Murray sped on up that road all the way to Tom's university. Tom swore to him, and later the investigators, that he hadn't seen her in weeks, that he had been in his room studying that night. His roommate confirmed as much, and with the added disclosure of having later gone home, where he then spent the weekend, the rest was uncertain. The police looked deeper into Tom and found strands of Michaela's hair in his car, which proved nothing foul, but it spooked him enough into admitting that he had seen Michaela more recently than he had stated. That he had picked her up late in the weekend prior for a midnight drive. This sounded precisely like what had happened the night she had gone missing, but police found nothing to substantiate it. Tom was eventually cleared as a suspect, and the Murrays would never let it go. They were certain that he was involved in Michaela's disappearance. So certain that Paul Murray spent several nights sitting outside Tom's dorm, waiting to catch his daughter going in or out. Tom's family wanted to press charges, but Paul had friends at the sheriff's office who assured the family that it would not happen again and left Paul with a very stern warning. But being friends with law enforcement only went so far, as the case would soon go cold. Within days, weeks, and months passing by without any further updates, the public moved on, while people in Michaela's life were left with this dark cloud of uncertainty, wondering what had happened to her, if she was out there somewhere, alive. And she was. She was about to return home after more than a decade gone because I'm Michaela Murray, and I ran away that night to start a new life. That's what I told the Murrays anyway. I had no idea what happened to that girl. I'm awful. I know. I'm not proud of myself, but I was desperate. I was homeless and on the run, smoking a pack a day, sleeping with men from bars for money, only to spend it at another random bar and do it all over again. I was stuck, and I needed a plan. And then I saw her face. Michaela Murray. Grab you some coffee or tea. Curl up and relax. It's good to see you here. It was on the bulletin board at some cheap motel I'd been passing through. There were half a dozen girls on there, but Michaela stood out. Her blonde hair straight and pretty, her blue eyes as wide as her smile. It stopped me dead in my tracks because she looked exactly like me. Exactly like me. I could have swapped one of my old high school photos and nobody would have noticed. Not that anyone was paying attention to the sport or these girls anymore. Even the lady at the motel who had spotted me said, "They ain't coming home, dear." But I don't got the heart to take them down. I was curious, enough to turn on the phone I had kept in my bag just in case. My father had long stopped paying for it, but the motel offered free Wi-Fi, and I'd used it to read more about Michaela. I learned that she was only 2 years older than me, and that the photo in the lobby wasn't just a one-off. She resembled me in every other photo, of which there were many, along with theories about what had happened to her. I couldn't have given any less of a care about that rabbit hole. What got my interest were the earrings Michaela wore in the photos, or the necklace her mother wore at the press conference, or the watch on her dad's wrist. As I dug deeper, it became clear that the Murrays had money, a fair good amount of it. After entertaining Jerry from the bar, and stealing his jacket, I ripped a butt late that night and decided one of those girls was coming home, and it was going to be me. The Murrays lived in the same house, an hour west of the small Michigan towns I'd been nesting in, which worked perfectly, as I'd been toying with the idea of going back home to Chicago. It was a cheap way to justify the awful thing I was about to do, because in reality there was no way I was actually going back home, even with the Murray fortune in my pockets. It's frightening what we'll do to ensure we're the good guys in our own story. As I dished out a small chunk of my remaining cash to hop on a bus, I felt no hesitation or fear. Sure, it was risky, but I wasn't planning on being there for more than a night. I'd done enough research on Michaela to get in, find what I could take, and get out. I was going to beg the family to give me one day before alerting anyone that I had returned, to let me rest in my own bed before being sworn by whatever media Nowhere, Indiana had to offer. When the bus arrived at the station, I couldn't help but notice how out of place it looked. Like it had been copy and pasted from somewhere else, standing out among the run-down outlet shops and restaurants. I spotted a seedy-looking bar standing out among the seedy-looking bar next to an even more questionable-looking mechanic, and thought about making a detour. I needed a drink, but I couldn't. I had to make sure not to talk to anyone. I couldn't risk being mistaken for the town's longest missing girl. Not here, not now. So, when an older man approached me outside the station as I smoked one last cigarette, I had panicked. He asked if he could bomb one, and that he really needed it, so I did, just to make him go away. Then he started rambling about his car having broken down in this place and how he was stuck here until he fixed it. He told me his name and asked me mine. Told him what it was, Abby. It's not. He said I reminded him of his niece back in Iowa, something I pretended was interesting. Maybe I could pretend to be her too, I thought. When I finished smoking, I wished him luck and set off to do what I came to do. I shoved the rest of my cigarettes and lighter deep into my backpack, along with my real identity. And when I turned down Lincoln Avenue, I was no longer me. Or Abby. I was Michaela Murray. The Murrays' lived a pretty secluded life. Their home sat alone in the middle of endless plains, their neighbors barely dots in the distance. I was starting to understand why Michaela might have run away, although the house itself was beautiful, with many protruding sections and gables, a wraparound porch, and a large two-door garage. There was even an in-ground swimming pool out back, now covered and topped with autumn leaves, and a cute little gazebo further off the field, draped in numerous flags and dream catchers, with flower pots lining the railings. It certainly didn't look like the kind of place tragedy had struck. I stepped quietly up the stairs and was almost spooked by my own reflection in the glass of their front door. Nerves were definitely setting in now. I rang the bell and felt my stomach sink. What if my dirty blonde hair wasn't light enough, or if Michaela had some obvious birthmark I'd overlooked? I was sweating underneath my coat, unable to recall the name of the man I'd taken it from. When the door opened, my heart stopped. Linda Murray was standing there in a casual weekend wear, pleasantly confused. "Hello," she greeted me. Then her face went white in an instant, like her soul had left her body. She shrieked and clasped her hands to her mouth, bursting into tearful exclamations. "Oh my God," she kept repeating. She suddenly lunged forward and squeezed me tighter than I would have liked, her arms attempting to wrap all the way around my backpack. I stood there awkwardly, bracing all of her weight onto mine as she was surely about to collapse. The dog at her legs was barking madly, and as Linda's tears dropped onto my back, all I could think about was how pissed off I'd be if I'd gotten caught because the dog didn't recognize my scent. "What is it, Linda?" Michaela's dad called from somewhere inside. He soon appeared in the doorway, his button-up tucked into his jeans, and when he saw my cold, pale face poking over Linda's shoulder, he stumbled back. "What is this?" he gasped. His eyes went wide and his bushy gray mustache twitched. The dog was still barking, reminding me that I was in fact a stranger in this house. I smiled and said, "I'm home, Daddy." I was trying to make myself cry, and if Linda had squeezed me any harder, I just might have. She held onto my sleeve as we let go, as though afraid her daughter would run off again. Paul Murray was just staring at me in disbelief when something shifted in his face and he stepped forward. "Come here, baby girl," he uttered. Linda passed me off like a toy she didn't want to share. Paul pulled me into his arms and held even tighter than she had. We rocked back and forth for a moment. "I can't believe it's you," he whispered. Linda rushed for the door and yelled inside, calling for her son James. "Come inside, baby," Paul beamed as he released me, keeping a hand on my back and beckoning me inward. "It's cold. Come." We moved into the foyer, where Paul asked to take my coat, which I happily handed him. Now that I was inside, I could practically smell the bar on it. "Your bag, sweetie," he added. I shook my head and said, "No, that's okay." He made a face, and I worried it was suspicion. And then I worried more that worrying was the only thing suspicious. I had to settle down. I had nearly jumped when Paul turned the locks and hit a button on the alarm system. It chimed louder than I would have expected. I wondered if all this had always existed or if it was a result of the daughter having slipped out one night, never to be seen again. One of her coats still hung on a hook nearby the door, untouched after all these years. Now, mine hung next to it. Well, Danny's or whatever. As we moved further inside, I was blown away by how nice this place was. So much so that I'd slipped and let it show. Nothing in this house was supposed to be surprising me. It was hard not to be impressed by the high ceilings and bookshelves or the many sofas beside a grand marble fireplace, or the fact that this was just the room that branched off into all the other rooms, one they'd probably hardly ever used. As I continued to survey my surroundings, a figure high above caught my eye. And it was James. He looked down over the railing and looked more flabbergasted than anyone to have seen me. At 17, he was now the same age his sister was when she vanished, only much taller, but with the same baby face. "Look, James. Look who it is," Linda cried joyfully. "It's Sissy. Come give her a hug." I wanted to puke. James didn't move right away, and when he did, it was this slow, cautious crawl. I figured surely, of all people, I'd have been safest around James. After all, he'd hardly ever known his sister. Yet, the baby blue eyes behind his jet black hair were piercing into mine, searching for the girl he so dearly missed. I couldn't think of what to say to him, and was distracted by the fill of the cigarettes in my bag. I needed one. "Hi," was all he mustered, stopping at the foot of the stairs. "Hey, Goober," I replied. I had no idea if that's something Michaela ever called him, but neither had anyone else. James and I did something resembling a hug and let go. Linda looked on, red-faced, still overcome with emotion, and Paul was smiling at us. "Let's go sit." "Yeah," he suggested. "You look exhausted." He wasn't wrong. I couldn't wait to sit down. There probably wasn't a piece of furniture in this place less comfortable than the mattresses I'd been living on for the last decade. I held in my amazement as we marched from room to room, deeper and deeper into the house. And Linda was still exhaling this stuttered, painful sob that kept reaching to touch me in any way. A hand on the back or a light brush of the hair. It was annoying. But then again, I never learned how to have a mother. When I shrugged Linda off, she looked heartbroken. It was at that moment I finally began to feel like the asshole I knew I was. After passing through the kitchen and down another hall, we stopped in their second, larger living room. It was very open, the ceiling reaching all the way up to the third story, with photos lined as high as the ladder could reach. I followed Michaela's progression of school photos, remarking how eerily similar they were to mine, and how they were one photo short. There was an upper level beside it, where a grand piano sat in one corner, and a bar in the other, separated by yet another fireplace. I imagined how nice a Christmas tree must have looked and here, even during the day with the natural light coming in through the sliding glass door to the back porch. Each Murray dropped onto a separate couch in the lower level. Paul gestured for me to sit next to Linda, who, of course, was eager to be next to me. James was slouched directly across, staring down at the ground. The rest of us were darting our eyes, waiting for someone to begin. Paul cleared his throat. "Let me just start by saying that we're not mad." Linda was nodding feverishly in agreement. Paul went on. "We just want to know what happened." Something in my gut wrong. My actual dad showed even an ounce of this concern. I might not have run away myself. Instead, he took his brother's side, my abuser. I dropped my head. I needed to get out of here. I felt trapped. I didn't mean to hurt anyone. I just didn't know what else to do. really sorry.
It certainly wasn't Oscar worthy, but I wasn't playing the long con. I just needed it to be passable, long enough for me to swipe several of the items we'd passed along the journey to this room. Paul nodded slowly, gazing off somewhere over my shoulder. Okay. That's all he said. It was somehow worse than anything else he could have said. For all I knew, Michaela had a great life here with a loving family, and now I was making them feel responsible. Each of them was staring off somewhere, letting my story sink into their minds. I wanted to sink into the couch. Where did you go, Michaela? Linda suddenly wondered, falling forward.
No, Linda. It's okay. She's not a little girl anymore. That's her business. Listen, baby girl. We don't have to talk about it if you don't want. All that matters now is that you're home and you're safe.
You reached for my hands and held on gently. It was strangely comforting. For the first time in my life, I felt cared for and safe. In my short time there, I completely flipped my thinking. What if Michaela was just another stupid teenager rebelling against her parents who were only trying to protect her? What if she'd sneaked out to celebrate her 18th birthday with a college boyfriend at some frat party?
What if he slipped something into a drink?
Or if she got too experimental? What if someone offered her something that she had never tried before, and she took it to be cool, to show off in front of her college boyfriend's college friends? I'd spent my whole life wishing I had hers. What if
She just left it.
You know what? I have an idea, Paul said with a clap. Linda, why don't you go out and get stuff for pork sandwiches? I'll cook up some tater tots. Meh? He was looking at me with raised eyebrows like I was supposed to know what he was actually talking about, so I pretended to. This must have been sort of Murray tradition or Michaela's favorite meal.
That sounds great,
I replied. I tried to smile at James, but it was clear he wasn't ready to forgive his sister for abandoning him.
Linda hopped up.
Michaela, sweetie, do you want to come with me?
I hated how often she was saying her name, how she spoke to me like I was 5.
Before I got a chance to respond, Paul chimed in.
Hon,
Let her breathe. Run to the store. I'll get things started here, and you,
he said to me,
go rest up. It's going to be crazy here by tomorrow. I just want to have one night as a family first. I could not have agreed more. Everything was going exactly as I had planned, maybe even better. There was a really shiny diamond-studded vase across the room calling my name, right next to an autographed jersey of some football player I'd never heard of. I was going to walk out with one while wearing the other. Going up to your room, Paul said to me. We'll come get you when it's ready. Linda pulled me in for another hug and kissed me on the side of the head. She looked over at James and saw that he was looking rather lifeless. She had caught his attention and made a tipping motion towards her mouth, which James replied. I took him already. He finally glanced my way, but it wasn't quite the look I wanted to see. There was more than just betrayal in his eyes. Everyone broke at once and dispersed, Paul heading for the kitchen and Linda making her way out. I grabbed my backpack and followed a sluggish James up the stairs, feeling good about how things were going so far. Until it occurred to me that I had no idea which room was Michaela's. It wasn't something she had ever forgotten, not even after 12 years. James and I rounded the corner and were faced with a long, narrow hallway with several doors. I feared I was going to have to guess the right one when James threw me a lifeline. Hey, he began. He had stopped in front of his door and turned to me. Do you want to hang out? Watch a movie or something? Even this had come out tense, like he was being forced to ask. Then I remembered that this had been the last thing that he and Michaela had done together. Yeah, sure, I said happily.
I don't think I'm ready to see my room yet anyway.
James nodded,
And the knot in my stomach untwisted. When we entered his room, I was surprised by how neat it was, so much so that I felt wrong laying my dirty bag down.
James's baggy jeans and messy hair gave me a totally different vibe, but his bed was made. The walls were bare, and the desk in the corner looked like it had hardly ever been used.
The one window in the room had a perfect view of the setting sun behind the fields. The shadows cast a line between the pool, below the gazebo that was now just barely visible from this vantage point. I heard the lock click. I need to refill my coffee. This is a very long story. So it's not going to take any time at all to do that. Just give me 8 minutes. I'll be right back. Meow Ramas. I'll be right back. I'm back. I told you it would be very short. Big stretch. Okay. It's too hard to drink it. I want to drink it now. I'll drink water for a second. I heard a lock click. We need to go now, James whispered. He let his neutral expression drop into one of panic. I watched in confusion as he rushed over to his closet and threw on a sweater, cursing under his breath as he did so. When he looked up at me again, it was like he had forgotten I was there. What are you talking about? I demanded. James shook his head. He knows. He knew the whole time. My brain was automatically rattling off ways to salvage this, but there was no point. I was caught, and something other than my identity was bothering him, and that made me nervous. What gave it away? I wondered. He looked at me like I was crazy. Do you have any idea what's going on here? He killed her. He buried her. My heart stopped. What? That wasn't in any of the theories I had read online. Like everyone else, I had been so sure that it was a boyfriend, Tom. It was obvious. But the look of fear washing over James's face was hitting me as well. How do you know that? He took me by the arm and dragged me over to the window. Look. He spat, with an outward finger against the glass. Far beyond the covered pool sat the gazebo, lifeless and weather-worn with noticeable chips on its white paint. Only its right side was visible from behind the rest of the house. I could see the flags encircling its beams, waving calmly above a row of gardening supplies. James was breathless, or breathing heavy as he stared out at it, his eyes fixed even as he spoke. He built it right after she disappeared, and we're not allowed to use it. He calls it his garden. I climbed it once while I was 10, and he beat me. But I've seen him out there at night a couple of times, spraying the plants, fixing the dirt, and look, he hurried to his dresser and rummaged through before pulling out something and jamming it into my gut. I reached down. It was a dirty purple bracelet, all stretchy and rubber. It had Michaela's name on it. I played with it in my hand. Remy dug that up last year, said James. Dropped it right at my feet, and I remember it. I remember her wearing it that night. I stared at it and let it slide down onto my wrist, trying to find any counter to his theory. You saw her drive off, I reminded him. I saw her car drive off. There was a voice in the back of my mind telling me that he was delusional. But the voice that believed him was louder and much more afraid. I watched, mouth agape as he struggled to tie his shoes, but he kept messing up and starting over, spitting more curses under his breath. My thoughts were swirling. I just lost my place. James, why haven't you called the police? Because I can't. It was louder than he intended. He stood up and recollected himself. My dad is friends with the sheriff. If the cop pulls up, he'll kill us. If I run, he'll kill my mom. I don't even think she'd believe me. I put my hands up to quiet him, but the fearful cry he had been holding in had burst out. He covered his mouth to push it back in, along with all the snot and tears that were oozing out of him. He rushed over to his bedside drawer and picked up a bottle of pills, swiftly popping a few into his mouth. My chest was getting tighter. Why can't we just play along a little longer? I said. I'll leave tonight. If we go downstairs, we're dead. We were dead the second you got here. The police, the news, they'll all be here tomorrow whether you're here or not. They could find her. I could tell them. My dad, might snap, like he did on Michaela. You don't understand. He would rather die than get caught, and he'd take us with him. I know. So we need to go. Out of the window. Now. We'll just run. At that point, it no longer mattered to me if James was right or if he was out of his mind. I wanted to get out of there. I looked out the window again. It was just starting to get dark. I would have preferred a more casual escape over jumping off the roof, but if what he was saying was true, we had no choice. I was craving a cigarette more than ever, and that alone was almost enough to get me on that roof. We could take a bus, I said. That's how I got here. It's only a couple miles that way. I know where it is. We just have to stay off the roads. We can use the fields for cover. And then once there was a knock at the door. James. There was Paul. He tried turning the handle. Everything all right in there? Without hesitation, James ran for the window and opened it. I could hear the faint chime of the alarm from somewhere out in the hall. Paul's jiggling of the locks grew more aggressive. What the hell is going on in there? Open the door. The beast started pounding on it. I threw my bag and joined James, who was already halfway out the window. Together, we scurried on the roof, hopped onto the back porch, and dropped down onto the rather large portico above the back door. I'd almost fallen down the side, but James held me up. A loud crash came booming from back up in his room. I looked up. He jumped first onto the lawn, and I followed. Both of my feet and knees took the impact hard. The ground underneath the autumn foliage, deceptively solid. James helped me up and we took off running. Against his advice, I looked back and saw Paul peeking out James's window. He shouted to us and then disappeared. James had already separated himself a good distance from me. I kept pushing my legs as he called back for me to do so. My backpack bounced off my butt with each stride. There was a road in the distance, the same road I trudged along to get here. I could see where it met the orange and purple sky. It felt like it was never getting any closer. A gunshot rang out, whipping across the plains. Paul was now standing by the back door, aiming the rifle in our direction. His cries chasing us behind the gunpowder. Another bang and my legs were buckled. When I'd reached the gazebo, I hid behind it to catch my breath. It was a sharp, debilitating pain in my side. I held myself up on one of the railings and thought I could feel my heartbeat vibrating against the wood. I swore if I survived this, I would quit smoking. I peeked around the corner and saw Paul hurry into the garage. James calling out for me by the road, but as I stood there frozen against the gazebo, flags caressing my shoulder, I thought about the girl buried underneath. What if James was right? What if nobody ever found Michaela's remains? What if we didn't make it out of here and nobody ever knew? I thought of my own story, unheard and not believed. When I told my dad about what my uncle had done all those years ago, he had hit me. Couldn't let the story stay buried too. I'm gonna take a sip of the coffee really quick. Also, I had this silly idea. I have an idea for a trigger that maybe I could try at some point. But horrible idea? Sniffies? It's more of a dog thing. I guess it's not really a cat boy thing, is it? Okay. I took out my lighter and lit a flag, and then another. The fire burned slowly, picking up as quick as it caught onto more flags and dream catchers, then down to the plants below. I stumbled back and watched the flames spread and dance along the darkening sky. I hoped, at the very least, it would be a distraction, and more so enough to attract law enforcement. I could hear Linda's shrill voice crying at the side of it all. She had rushed around to the side of the house with groceries in her hands, calling out for her husband who had just sped off in his truck. He was coming. I made one last dash for James, who was impatiently waving me on. He took my arm and led me across the road his father would soon be turning onto. We slipped into the cornfield and kept going until we heard the roar of the engine pass by. We froze until there was nothing but the wind, the pain in my side still nagging me. As dark as the sky had rapidly grown, it was even darker in that field, the corn towering over us, clinging to life as much as we were. Paul's headlights were shining through, but from not much further ahead. We waited in terror for a crunch, or shout, or ideally for the truck to zoom off. Another gunshot rang high into the air. I gasped and had to cover my mouth to quiet my breathing. "Where are you going with my son?" Paul called in a sing-songy fashion. We could hear him walking over the sound of the engine purring. Where are you?" His footsteps wandered around, farther, closer, and then farther again, separated only by the sound of swishing corn as he searched randomly along the outer edge. There was a pause, followed by a door slamming shut. Paul struck, whirled, and sped back down the road. I exhaled as James tugged on my arm and instructed to keep going. We pushed through more corn and followed along the road as best we could. I would never have imagined being in this situation when I walked down it earlier that day. Now, I was wishing I never had. Sirens suddenly wailed nearby and eventually rushed past us. The glow of the flames had grown noticeably brighter in the distance, the smoke visibly high above the fields. James. Oh no, James gasped. Come on, we need to keep moving. Are you okay? Yeah. I wasn't. We shuffled further through the corn, shoving it aside more aggressively as we went. I could hardly see any more than a few feet in front of me. After a while, we could hear a steady buzz of passing vehicles indicating that we had reached the city, but also the end of the cornfields. We stepped out onto a road and into the glow of the streetlights. I felt like I could breathe again, just for a moment. You ready? He said. We gotta move quick, but we have to blend in. I realized at that moment how truly young James was and how insane I was for having put my life into his hands. I was 28, but I felt like the same little girl I was all those years ago, hoping her father would protect her. I'd only hoped that James was better at it. We dashed across the empty street and then slipped into the downtown area. Kept my head down. Most of the businesses on the strip were closed for the night, but the bar I had seen earlier was now glowing in its neon signs, which did a good job of masking its otherwise unapproachable facade. There were locals standing outside, having a smoke, drunkenly arguing about nothing. James and I crossed the street, and when we reached the bus station, I was relieved to see the lights were still on. This relief would not last. Incoming only, folks, the man at the desk told us. You have to wait until morning, sorry. I was already making my way for the exit, and James caught up with me. What are you doing? I'm getting out of here. What am I supposed to do? He followed alongside me, being more conspicuous than I would have liked. I stopped and leaned in. I don't care. Come with me, or don't. I'm leaving. I was on the verge of crying, the lump in my throat growing larger. James stood there at a complete loss. I looked at him and I saw the 5-year-old boy who woke up that night all alone, the streetlights above shining in his eyes, just like the headlights he would watch disappear. I'm sorry, I added. I just want to go home. Couldn't believe I had said it, and actually meant it. Then I realized James couldn't go home. My father felt he was going to be on his own, on the run, and homeless at 17, just like I was. They're gonna find Michaela, I assured him. Then you'll be safe. He was trembling. And what if they don't? I had no answer. Not one he would have liked anyway. Even if we made a call to the police that very moment, I could already see Paul going home and putting the rifle to Linda's head before putting it in his own mouth. I wondered if he already had. I think James did too. He leaned into me and started to cry. He was a whole foot taller than me and bony, but I held on to him. Not like I had with Paul or Linda, but with Ernest. Excuse me. A voice suddenly called out to us. I was about to run when I saw a familiar face. The old man I had smoked with earlier was approaching us from the mechanics lot next to us. His face twisted when he recognized me back. Oh, it's you, Abby, right? Everything all right over here? James and I looked at each other but said nothing, and an idea crossed my mind. Actually, no, sir. We're stuck here too. The man whose name I'd forgotten grinned. Huh. Well, the car's fixed. I'm about to head down if you guys need a lift. Where you headed? Anywhere, I begged. His smile faded. Right. Okay, sure. That's fine. I'm gonna be driving west down 80 for a while, if that works for y'all. Yes, I said. That's perfect. James and I followed the man back to the lot and hopped into his old station wagon. I took the front. I think the old man repeatedly even offered him gas money, but he refused it. Said he was happy to help. He introduced himself to a catatonic James in the back, reminding me his name was Frank. My eyes kept darting between Frank's and the rearview mirror he was periodically checking. James was huffing short, panicked breaths. I wondered if he needed his meds. We drove off in silence for a while. You couldn't see anything beyond the headlights' path, just a deep, empty void. The old man tried to spark up conversation, but neither James or I were up for it. He had asked if we wanted the radio on and off, if we were hungry, cold, hot. Each time, we told him we were fine. He took the hint, and we drove for hours down the same stretch of highway, barely having spoken, till James had fallen asleep. I know it ain't my business, young lady, but are you sure you and your friend are okay? Frank kept his voice just above the hum of the radio. I assured him that we were more than fine, even though my mind was still back on Lincoln Avenue, wondering what had happened that very moment at the Murray household. If the flames had revealed the truth below, or if they were extinguished before they got the chance. I played an imagined scene in my mind over and over. The fire trucks, the inspection of the damage. Paul watching eagerly nearby, ready to run. The discovery of bones, the call to the sheriff, the arrest of the man he had known and tried to help all those years ago. Or when we might now have to hunt down. Will you at least tell me your real name? Frank asked, bringing me back to reality. We had so clearly been withholding truth from this poor man. All he wanted was just a small piece of it. Maybe so he could justify the crazy thing that he had done that day. I looked down at my fidgeting hands and noticed the purple bracelet still tight along my wrist. The pink lettering of Michaela's name flashing with every passing streetlight. I'd forgotten that I was still wearing it. I thought about how badly I wanted to give her that ending that she deserved. The one that she had wanted for herself. An escape. Freedom. How easy it would have been to do it, to say her name. It's Rachel, I uttered instead. Frank smiled at me. Well, Rachel, it's nice to finally meet you. I let him drive us another hour. It was almost midnight. When I woke James to get out, he had jumped. I had Frank drop us off at a cheap bed and breakfast, something I'd grown quite accustomed to over the years. I tried once more to pay him, but he wound up giving me money instead. It wasn't much, but the gesture alone was beyond kind. In spite of everything I had been through that day and all that came before it, it wasn't any less meaningful coming across someone as genuinely good as that man. I felt bad that I lied to him about my name again. James and I shared a bed, sleeping head to toe beside a rattling air conditioner. I wouldn't have slept anyway. I was plenty happy with the floor hours I got. When I woke early the following morning, I stepped outside for a cigarette and enjoyed every moment of it. I'd quit another day. James was sitting up in the bed by the time I went back inside, his hair an awful mess, his tired eyes red. He asked me what our plan was. He was impatient. And I understood. I told him that we should eat breakfast first and figure it out from there. It had almost been an entire day since I had last eaten. When we entered the dining area, we saw that there was only a few other guests inside. I still wanted a table in the back, but James insisted we sit by the bar, where a TV was playing the news. I gave in. He was worried about his mother, and I couldn't blame him for that. I'd been worried about mine too if she were still alive. I was really hoping this aspect of our lives remained different. James was glued to the TV even as the waitress came and took her order. "You're gonna drive yourself crazy," I told him as she walked away. He shook his head at me and kept his eyes fixed. We sat in silence as we waited for our food and potential news. "Your coat," James suddenly recalled. "You left your coat at my house." I laughed, to which James just blinked. "It's not my coat," I explained. "Whose is it?" "Some guy named Scott, I think, maybe Jordan." It wasn't long before the waitress arrived with our meals. We had ordered the same thing, only my eggs were scrambled. There was something about the smell of bacon and home fries that brought comfort strong enough to make you forget that you were on the run. I moaned at the first bite, probably could have eaten both plates. I even thought I saw a moan of calm in James' face as he ate. The TV caught our attention. "Thank you, John. Authorities say they responded early last night to a fire in one very familiar Indiana home, the home of Michaela Murray." James nearly fell out of the seat. I dropped my fork and a home fry fell to the floor. Missing since 2008, Michaela's disappearance was one that rocked the small town of Millersburg, Indiana, but left many hopeful that she was still out there, listening. But when authorities found her car abandoned near the Elkhart River, just miles from her home, friends and family began to fear for the worst. Michaela was gone, her whereabouts never discovered. Until now. I wanted to turn back to James, but was afraid to look at his face. When authorities cleared the scene last night at 1108 Lincoln Avenue, they made a shocking discovery that would answer a decade-long mystery, but spark a new one. It cut to the sheriff's press conference. He spoke matter-of-factly while cameras clicked all around him. "Fire department responded to a 911 call around 5 p.m. last night. There was a gazebo on fire in the yard of Murray residence, and when we assessed the damage, we discovered a bunker hidden beneath. Upon further inspection of the bunker, we found the body of a young woman and child. We've indeed confirmed that the woman to be Michaela Murray, but have no further information at this time." James squealed. "They found her." I ignored him, my face sunken. Waitresses and patrons were noticing our panic state. Something wasn't right. She'd been buried under there for so long there shouldn't have been much to find. And a child. It's believed that Michaela had been held captive inside the bunker since that fateful day 12 years ago, until last night when, tragically, both she and the child suffered fatal smoke inhalation resulting from the fire. Authorities have yet to confirm the identity of the child or who started the fire. Michaela's mother, Linda, has been questioned by the police while federal officials search for her father, Paul, and brother James, both of whom are now missing. If you have any information on their whereabouts, please call this number and stay tuned for more on the story. I couldn't feel my body. I turned around and stared down at my shaking hands on the table. The world caving in on me. "What happened?" James cried. His breathing was heavy, his eyes bulging out of their sockets, staring at me, bewildered. I finally looked at him. I killed Michaela.
That twist. That was nice. I liked it. It was long. It was long, but it was good. I think I'm just gonna sit here for a moment and enjoy this cup. Enjoy this cuppa. Enjoy this coffee. It's getting a little not cold, but it's gonna start. It's heading there. Oh no. Oh no. I really have to work on the the axis of the model, so he doesn't shift around when I take a sip of anything. It's so bad. We do have some other stories. They're longer. I think I might try to find a shorter one though. Yeah, I'll put the coffee down. Put the coffee down and try to find a shorter story. Okay.
Okay.
I don't know how long this one is. The name is interesting.
The infinite monkey theorem. An alternative perspective. Imagine you are an immortal chimp working to support your chimp family. Your chimp wife and children need the money. One day your chimp children will go to college and support you and your chimp wife when you're too old to work any longer. It's truly the perfect chimpanzee dream, just like the movies. You work in a never-ending cycle of tippity-tapping away on a keyboard. You're not alone. You're surrounded by seemingly endless supply of fellow simian laborers, all typing just the same. Work consists of pressing buttons and submitting a plethora of unreadable garbage to meet the yearly quota. Life is good, easy work. One day, management decided to make better use of you and your ape compatriots. You are assigned with one task and one task only. Write the entirety of Shakespearean literature. You can exit the building only when you have completed your assignment. Sounds kind of time-consuming, but simple, right? Wrong. Your small chimpanzee brain cannot yet process the meaning of strange symbols on the keyboard in front of you. You try to quit. I can't write Shakespeare. All that comes out is incoherent screeching and wailing. You are quickly escorted back to your seat at gunpoint and reprimanded for your behavior. Sure, the other apes have something to say about this new turn of events. No, your ape coworkers are seemingly unbothered and continue to smash the keyboards. You panic. You haven't had to exercise your brain in decades. Now they're expecting you to write full English sentences. Internally screaming, you frantically type randomly across your keyboard in hopes that you may get lucky and write a legible sentence or two. You won't, at least not for another couple of eons. Only now do you survey your surroundings, desperate for a way out. The door, locked. How about the windows? Seems like you had never looked up from your computer for long enough to realize there are no windows. Maybe the ventilation shaft, bolted and secure. Maybe you could break the door down. No. The years of endless office work has shriveled your body into a husk of its former self. You can barely support the glasses you wear on your head, let alone a still door. Looks like you're out of options. The chimpanzees alongside you work diligently and happily, unaware of the dire situation. You try typing. for only a bit. The constant mistakes and deletion of your hard work grinds you down. You work for hours at a time for zero gain. The end is nowhere in sight. Only now does it truly dawn on you your situation. You sit down and cross your arms in protest. You will refuse to work until they let you see your family. Except no one ever comes. What's one monkey refusing to work in a sea of countless others who work with no complaints? Eventually, you lose all hope and spend countless decades, even centuries, doing absolutely nothing. Time truly has no meaning when you are immortal. Luckily, your small ape brain is easily entertained by throwing assorted objects around the room and screeching at the top of your lungs. Even that, however, it gets old eventually. One day, this repetitive cycle ends, and an announcement over the intercom. Chimp number 729-38403 has completed his work. Congratulations. You are dumbfounded. Chimp number 729-384-403 washes over, jacks to the doors. You seize this opportunity and make a break for it. You see the outside world. You see sunlight again, and just as quickly as you have gained your temporary freedom, you lose it again. You are thrown back into the endless cubicles of your workplace. Seeing a fellow monkey make his way out of the solid, it determines you. If you can do it, I can do it, you think. You must get to work if you ever wish to live again. Despite the overwhelming odds against you, you begin. You imagine your loving family's embrace after you finally conquer the dreadful workload. It will all be worth it in the end, you tell yourself. Yet, you have the creeping thought in the back of your mind, will there ever be an end? Time passes, and slowly you see yourself make progress. Another announcement. Yet another ape has regained his freedom. This drives you to work harder than before. Soon you will be free. Yet more time passes. Another announcement, and another, and another, and even more. The ape to your left leaves you, and then the one to the right. Soon enough, you are completely alone. What did you do to deserve this divine punishment? You weep, your keyboard getting soggy. Yet you type. You stop thinking. One day, you do it. You place the period on the last sentence of the last book of Shakespeare. You can't believe it. You don't believe it. You get up and head for the exit door. Locked. Confused, you yell loud into the open air. The voice on the intercom starts speaking. You erupt into celebration. You are free, he says. 3 witches, 1 act, scene 1. What? What does that mean? You rush to your computer and scan through your work. Oh God, you read aloud. Fair is for pool and foul is fair. Oh my God. Oh my God. I feel like I've got conned. I feel like I got conned. I think we'll read one more. I think we can do one more. Now, to be at D&D in about 8 hours. I want to ensure that I get some time to play Final Fantasy 14. I'm finally back. I finally have the desire to play it again. So I'm going to enjoy that while it lasts. It usually fades rather quickly, but I feel fairly passionate about it currently. So yeah, we'll do one more short one. Sorry. Then I'll finish the last cup of coffee while I play. Let's see what this is about. How long it is. It's too long. I want to find something that's, hopefully, something that seems a little bit cozy. A lot of these are titled in a way that you don't really know it. You can't really tell what it's going to be. This is short. It's also science fiction. I love science fiction stuff so much. As a kid, fun fact, I guess, I used to really love fantasy stuff, like fantasy novels. That was my stuff. I used to love watching the Sci-Fi Channel back when it was cool. I didn't get to watch a lot of stuff, but I would like sneak and watch it when I could. It was always really nice. I love those shows like Tales from the Dark Side. Was Outworld the name of? I forget the name of it, but like, you know, the Twilight Zone type shows. Black Mirror is really cool too. But like those types of shows, I really loved growing up. But yeah, I love fantasy books. I used to read all the time as a kid. Always fantasy. But nowadays, like my favorite, even like anime to consume really, like what I actively search for. Not necessarily what I always watch, but I love sci-fi stuff. And like psychological stuff. Those are always the really, really fun ones to me. Anyway, there's your fun fact for the evening, I guess. I'm just like purely talking in your left ear. Anyway, this next one is titled Recursive Simulation Theory. Sir, the humans in Sim 7620 are getting restless. What do you mean, restless? Their fixation with space, sir, it's like the other Sims. They failed to make space travel economically viable, just as we intended, but for some reason, the humans in this Sim keep doing it anyway. What on earth for? We're not entirely sure. They seem to have a desire to explore just for the sake of exploring. How peculiar. Yeah, those of us at R&D think so too. Well, how far have they gotten? They've already got probes out of their solar system, but of course they lose contact with them when we delete them at the barrier. The more problematic issue is that they've already put humans on Mars, and now they're establishing outposts on Saturn's moons. We think it's only a matter of time before they try sending a human to the barrier. I see where you're going with this. Probes are fine to delete, but it would be a PR nightmare if we would just delete humans at the barrier without having a chance to archive them. But we can't just... But can we just extend the barrier for the Sim? Have we done that kind of thing before? Yeah, we've done that kind of thing in the past, but usually only to expand the radius from Earth to the solar system when the Sim becomes aware of our outer space. We haven't had a sim try to break out of its solar system yet. If we allow that in this sim, we'll have to account for it in the other sims too. It would increase our cost dramatically. So you're thinking we'll have to go the nuclear option then? Yeah, we could just archive this one. But aside from the space travel issue, it looks very promising. We actually think that it may be the best chance out of all of them to prove our theory as things stand now. I don't understand. We can't afford to let them reach the barrier, but you're not suggesting turning it off. So, what's the plan then? Well, we don't have a great option. Of course, to avoid archiving them, we need to get them to stop looking outward and start focusing more on what's available within the bounds of the simulation. So, we could just send a message suggesting that. We think they might comply. We doubt they want to be archived, considering their insatiable curiosity and all. The executive laughed. You want to break the fourth wall? Well, you've never done that before. Could be quite entertaining, but it might corrupt the results. Yeah. But corrupted results are better than no results at all. At least that's beta science's take on it, and we can always archive it later if it doesn't work. Alright. If that's what you think is best. You're the smart ones after all. You have my approval. The executive stared out of the window for a moment before continuing. Sir, if this space traveling sim is so successful, do you think we should try exploring deep space in our world too? No, sir. I really don't. Nice concept. Okay. We are going to call it here. We're going to end for now. For tonight. It's went very well for a not quite planned stream. For a little surprise stream. Maybe we'll do it again. Maybe I'll try to. Let's see. I'll consider doing this again on weekends. Not, Saturday or Sunday. I probably won't put it in the schedule though, just to be safe. If you like what you saw here, I'll stream on the weekdays from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. EST. Pretty much always going to be doing this, always going to be doing story reading and ASMR with occasional triggers and conversations in between them. Thank you to Gutter again for checking out my Ko-Fi and supporting me over there. It's very much appreciated. Yeah. Thank you to the Jellyfish Queen for the raid as well. First raid? Yeah. You guys take care. I'll see you Monday.